Hey Gwenters, and welcome back for another episode of Gwenting, this time in a rustic fireside situation. Today we're going to cover another one of these perspective decks. Again, I don't expect you to have all of these cards, but I want you to look at them and think, okay, I see how that could be useful in multiple ways, so I'm going to build that card. And today we are going to cover Nilfgaard. In part because I'm using them to finish out my ladder climb, but I think it's important to get perspective on Nilfgaard. They have multiple decks that are very meta right now. Soldier's Ball is a big one, Lockdown is one right now, but this one is a little bit less used. It has versatility in some different areas, but less in others. But it will give you a good perspective on some cards that you can get, several of which are only epics instead of legendaries. So this might be a little bit more of a budget-friendly deck if you do have a lot to go in. So this one is also beneficial because it is heavily based on tactics, which are special cards. So I'm going to pull up the deck editor actually first so you guys can take a look at these cards. I think most of it is going to center around Helga and this Enslave ability. So Enslave will seize an enemy unit with 3 or less power, and then this is raised by 1 for every 4 tactic cards you have in the starting deck. Now, if you remember from Deck Builder, starting deck has to have at least 13 unit cards and 25 cards. 25 minus 13 is 12. If you fill all of those up with tactics, which I have, you can steal a card worth 6 points from the enemy, which when you calculate that out is actually a 12-point play, and that's if the 6-point card is not an engine card, right? So the 6-point play, you steal their 6-point card, say they're at 12 points, they then go down to 6. If you were at 6, you're now at 12. So you were down by 6 points, now you're up by 6 points. That's what makes a 12-point play, right? So you have to think about it in those terms. Stealing a card can be very helpful. So Helga here is going to be our main engine that we can rely on and control. We're going to go over another couple engines that we have in here, but this is an epic card. It's worth getting. It works pretty well. It starts with the shield when it goes out, and then it has an order. It does damage a unit by 2 with 1 charge, and you get a charge every time you play a tactic. And there's lots of ways that we can play tactics, sometimes multiple tactics all in one go. So Hefty Helga can do a lot of damage, and then you can pair Helga with Fire Scorpion. This is a 5 provision cost card. It is, I think this is common. My screen is a little bit weird color here, but pretty sure it's just a common card. Yep, crafting cost is only 30 shards. Pretty easy to get. And this is going to damage an enemy unit by 1, and then you gain 1 charge whenever we play a tactic card. So some of the other, we'll start from bottom up. Ardfane Cavalry is who I'm using here for the Assimilate. He is going to pair with Artorias Vigo, who is also Assimilate, then creates and play 1 power copy of a bronze unit for my starting deck. So he is going to get boosted by that card that he's created, and then also Ardfane is going to get boosted by that. Imperial Diviner or Diviner has Assimilate as well, so she gets boosted every time you create something that's not part of your deck. Plus she has a Purify, and she's a 4-point play at a 5-point cost. So I think she actually has one of the best Purify abilities in the game, in my opinion, with the Assimilate. And note that it is a unit, not enemy unit or a friendly unit, so you can Purify on either side of the board. Oh, excuse me. Then Venedal Elite is our other 5-point card. He boosts himself by 1 for each tactic in hand. He's a 4-point base play, and then because we're rocking a deck that is like 48% tactics, you're gonna get him boosted by at least 3 points anytime you play him down as first play. So he's a beneficial first play card. So are Fire Scorpions and Helga. And then Imperial Diplomacy is create and play a bronze card from your opponent's faction. Not necessarily their deck, so it might not be something that necessarily counters something that they did exactly, but at least from their faction, that's going to get you your Assimilates. And then if you're going up against a Harmony deck and you use your Steel, I just did this a couple games ago, but you use Enslave, pull over Percival, since he's 6 points after he's been boosted once, and then you just can play that. You can play that card, Imperial Diplomacy, and play a card from their faction that gives you that Harmony bonus. And then here we got Experimental Remedy. That's going to play a bronze unit from their graveyard. Again, benefit for Harmony, but also can give you some special plays. I like on Skellige, on Crate Swordsman, or on Crate Warship are good ones to target. Great engines that dovetail well with the rest of this deck. So your high point cards here. Damien, so I think biggest one to focus on, if you don't have Royal Decree, you should get it. Royal Decree here is really good, gives you a lot of versatility. It's going to work well with pretty much any deck. Works super well with this deck because it is actually a tactic card. So you'll notice that it is brown, which means it's neutral. The rest of these are pretty much all Nilfgaardian. So hence why we are dressed like a luxurious Nilfgaardian today. And then Stefan Skellen here, really good. He's going to spawn and play a tactic from the last tactic that you played, so you can get a double play on some of these really good tactic cards, including Royal Decree, but also Bribery, create and play a unit from your opponent's starting deck, including gold cards. War Council, look at the first 3 cards on top of your deck and play one of them. And then Damien Delatour here is an excellent Nilfgaardian card. He's in a lot of decks, basically all of the meta decks, except for Soldier's Ball and Lockdown, he works really well with. Though honestly, even Soldier's Ball, you can use him. He's just a high spend, but pretty much any leader ability is worth the 6 point net cost that he is, right? You just got to protect him, which is where the first card I would recommend for Nilfgaard that you develop is Fionn van Ganel. Okay, so I think for all the factions, defenders are helpful, but they are especially helpful for Nilfgaard. They just have, their engines need real protection for just 1 round. So it's really hard to do a Purify and then a kill. There's a couple decks that can do it using like Wild Card from Syndicate, where you can get 2 plays, or like you saw at Tactical Maneuver with Northern Realms, where you can get 2 cards out at one time. But they're hard to do. It's hard to manufacture, and if you put Damien behind him, you got to get the cleanse or the Purify and then the attack. So it's pretty hard to do. And then we also have Kahir here for a melee row, and then he boosts himself whenever an enemy boosts. So he's susceptible to Geralt Igni and Geralt Yrden, but he's a great engine, and he does a great job of pushing. And then Menno here will let you play a tactic card from your deck. Every faction pretty much has one of these cards where they get to play their own faction special card. But Menno is a really good one. I believe he is legendary though, so I mean, you got to think whether or not he's worth it. But I would say definitely top 3 from this one, because I gave you Dandelion, Donimir, and Visigata from the other deck. I think top ones to get from Nilfgaard, no question on Fionn. Royal Decree is universal. I would get that one. And then Damien is my other suggestion that I would get. I think Soldier's Ball, he actually does work really well with if you want him to. He's just a high spend. But you can refresh that leader ability to get the 8 boost. Plus, you can pull a card up to the top of your deck. So if you play him in an early push round, you can get the card that you want for the next round on top of already having pulled up Affin. Right? So, and for those of you who don't know those cards, don't worry about it. You'll see them. That is a very expensive deck, especially if you're adding in Tyrconnell. I don't have any of those, but it is something to keep in mind here. I'll just give you a quick look. Right, so Tyrconnell here gives you spawn bronze unit. Affin will get summoned to the melee row if he gets summoned to the top of your deck. You can also use Virgref to trigger deploy abilities on adjacent bronze soldiers, and Vreen pairs well with him to get those boosts on those soldiers as well. They work really well with Durlans, who spawn a base copy of this unit, so you can actually get all 4. You can get 4 of them in play by playing them twice, and then you can proc them again to get 6 total, and then you can play Vreem to boost them all by 2, which gives you 12 points. So it's a great play between those 2 cards, and those are both epics actually. So if you just want to run a cheaper Soldier's deck, that's a great way to do it. And then Masquerade Ball is what we reference when we say Soldier's Ball here. So this is the scenario card for Nilfgaard. And then you might have seen me talking about the Resurrection decks, and you can use Von Atra for that. Oh, sorry, I got Van Morlehem here. 1 second. A Seer. So she will flip that card back onto your draw pile so you can use her again for a later round. And really helpful if you have the leader ability that lets you draw one of the top 3 cards on your deck. And if you can pair that with War Council, which is the tactic card that lets you do the same thing. But enough, you've seen enough of this. This is way too much discussion. I know you guys are like, oh, come on, just get to the gameplay. Show us how it works. That's how I feel. So we're just gonna jump right into this. I think the good thing about Hefty Helga and the tactics play is that this deck would otherwise be pretty susceptible to large proccing teams where they get a bunch of cards out on the board, so that they can be helpful for that. They are a bit susceptible to like a Soldier's Ball deck, which this one doesn't look like it is. It's probably a ball refresh deck, so I went through all that time explaining how it will work, and you guys get to see it in practice. So good ones to keep in mind here. I can use Assimilate to kill a unit, and then I can actually build it back myself. So we'll keep that. Ardfane is a good first play since we have to go first, but so is Venedal, so I'm going to flip back in Ardfane. I don't need another kill, so we'll wipe that out. We probably will need a Purify because they are Nilfgaard and being mean. Alright, we didn't get quite as many tactics as I wanted, so I'm actually thinking I might play out Fire Scorpion, draw the lock there, and then we can use the Diviner to purify him if that's true. And then you'll notice that, remember how I talked about stratagems? So this is the Nilfgaard stratagem. I think, in my opinion, one of the better stratagems that are out there. But this is Collar. It will lock an enemy unit and damage it by 3. So it's a great suppression one. All right, here you go. Here you're going to see it play. Especially if he's playing it this early, he's going to feel pretty confident about his ability to keep the pressure on.
No one refuses me.
So my question is, what do I want to do here? I don't think I want to kill her yet, but I do want to lock her because he's probably going to play an Aristocrat. So we're just going to get her a little suppressed, and then let's go for Venedal. See, that's, we had 4 tactics cards in hand. He plays for 8 points and doesn't require any other work other than that. So Venedal, in my opinion, especially for this deck, is a great 5-point play. I just really like the Purifies on these diviners. Alright. This isn't the worst thing for us, so he's going to play the lock, and then he gets the poison from the scenario. So each time he plays an Aristocrat, he gets these next ones, so he's going to be able to play 2 Fangs of the Empire, so he's going to knock out this Venedal Elite. So I have to decide what's going to be more worthwhile to me, this 8-point play, or I get 3 plus 1 damage. And he's not going to die, actually. So am I going to get enough damage to save it? I don't think so. So I think, actually, we're going to heal up Venedal. I'm not really concerned about killing anything of his. Honestly, the way to think about playing against these Masquerade Ball decks is Outlast. If you want to talk about Survivor, this last season was phenomenal, by the way. I don't know if you guys watched, but it was great. Total aside. But Outwit, Outlast, Outplay, right? So that's basically what you need to do here. One way you can do that is by pulling Artorias Vigo, and then he can get me hopefully another Diviner. Oh, look at that. Lucky dogs we are. And then it's going to proc both of the assimilates on these cards, because this was not a card in my starting deck. It is a spawned copy. So anytime I play something that's not in my starting deck, I'm going to get that boost. Alright, now I have a few cards still that I can... Diplomacy is going to work well here. I can use Assassination. We'll see if he plays a lock. If he doesn't, we'll use Assassination to take out that Thirsty Dame. If he does, we have the option to pull her over to our side, but we don't really have any locks going on. So, alright, here he goes. She's dropping in another poison. Alright. Well, I think our best option at this point, honestly, is just to keep this train going. Although, you know what? Let's actually just steal her now. So this is why this is 12-point play. See, now we're up by 11 instead of down by 1. And then we're just going to play this Diplomacy, see if we can't get another one. We did not. He does have a lock. There's nobody I really care to kill. So let's actually get Enforcers up. It's not as high of a play, but it's another card that he has to lock if he wants to do something about it. Then you see we trigger those Zoom Blade abilities, so even if he plays a poison on this, we're still going to be up. We'll just have to decide how much we care. Alright. We got 9 points. If he wants to push, he can push, but he'll be down a card next round, and he really needs to play a seer next round, so we're actually just going to pass. And I'll describe why that is. So, right now he just has Lacerate in his graveyard. He needs Masquerade Ball in his graveyard in order for a seer to play it out of the pull it out of the graveyard and put it back onto this deck. Oh, and look at that. We got him to play Vincent in the first round, so I'm actually happy with that. That was a strong push. And as you can see, I think the highest card we played in that was Artorias Vigo, who's an 8-point card. He had to play Vincent, who is one of the best cards from that build, right? So he destroys any unit with status, which would include Fion. So something really important to keep in mind there. We threw him off our back and saved Fion. So I kept Ardfan Cavalry in the event that he decides not to play anything. If he does decide to play something, we'll have to rethink our lives a little bit, but I think we're going to be okay. He may play a Seer. Here we go. The thing with a Seer that we need to be concerned about is he's going to go down to 9 cards. We have 2 cards that we can play, right? So I don't really need to be wholly worried about this. So I'm just going to get Ardfane out here and then play a card. I mean, there are basically no cards that are less than a 4-point play at this point from a Nilfgaard deck. So this is going to be very friendly to me. And I want to check here to see who he has that's going to benefit me. I can pull out this Thirsty Dame or this Fangs later on. So I am not going to play Experimental Remedy because that gives me a specific card I want. I'm instead going to play this. I'll play Dathlin. And we'll play that to melee. He's going to get rid of a card, and I'm going to trash his Vincent. I don't know if he has anything that's going to resurrect it, but I don't want to mess with it. Alright, so we're down to even cards. Would have probably been better had I played a 7-point play. Then I would have been up a card, but I would have had to lose Fion to do that, and that just didn't seem worthwhile to me. I could have played Assassination. We would have been tied, but because he already had the crown, he would have won by default. So I'd rather save my Assassination to do some damage on him this turn. Alright, so we have Menno, so we can pull out a specific unit. We probably will want the Diviner. Treason can be good, but he's not going to play a whole lot of high-point cards. Let's just keep 1 Assassination, and here we go. We got Damien. So the only other card that I really care about getting probably is Kahir. And then we have these 3 other tactic cards. I would prefer to have one of them than Experimental Remedy. Alright, well, we got Kahir, so we won't have to play this unit card. Instead, we can play War Council or Bribery. Bribery is going to be really good for us just because we can do a lot with it. Alright, we have Diviner, so we can Purify. So I'm actually going to play Helga out onto melee row. The reason for that is I could hide Helga behind Fion as the defender, but Fion is going to spawn and play Battle Preparation. So Hefty Helga is going to get 1 charge when he starts, and then he's going to get another charge as soon as Fion plays, right? So you'll see this happen. So we'll go Fion, play Battle Preparation onto Fion, and there you go. Now he has 2 charges. There you go. You can also get out this Imperial Diviner to get the cleanse. He'll lose the shield, so just in case he has Treason, I'd prefer to keep that up there. But we have time to think about it and decide what we want to do. Now my next choice, even though he could get a lot of boosts and pass those onto Kahir, I'm actually more concerned about playing Delator. Alright, so notice this is how you get the 2-card play with Tactical Decision. So he's got that poison, he's going to wipe out Helga. So we've missed out on 3 points we could have taken, but we did draw some big cards from his deck. So now this is just kind of going to be an all-out war between the 2 of us. I can decide whether or not I want to kill Van Morleheim Cupbearer. He has Assimilate, so he's going to get a passive boost. But I think I'm more concerned about killing those Dames than I am about him. However, he is going to spawn 2 cards. So I think right now, since I'm not getting anybody else, I'd rather just watch him develop and get rid of that Cupbearer now. And let's see what he does. Alright. Here comes Masquerade Ball. think what we're gonna do,
Measures come.
I don't need this one as much as I would probably like to have Skellen play treason twice or bribery twice.
To my dying breath.
So let's see what he does. If he just goes for straight lock too, we can use Diviner, right, to get that purify. So straight lock actually would benefit us. The thing I'm more worried about is if he has assassinate, which people often haven't been building into these match grade ball decks for I don't know why. And assassinate is one of the best kill cards. Its restriction is pretty minor. It still will do a minimum of 4 damage. So, all right, we got him to play Roderick, so he's gonna get a boost. And then he's gonna get another. He's gonna get another poison, and then he's gonna try to use Triss to get probably to pull out 5 card damage away, which is a bit of a waste of that poison, right? Let's just see what he does here. Now Triss is good in decks where you only have a couple of bronze cards.
I'll do what I can.
Let's see what he does. Then he gets Duchess, which just gives me a point because I don't have any bronze cards, right? But he did want to get that Thirsty Dame boosted by 1 so that I couldn't steal her, which is pretty fantastic in my opinion. All right. But you know what we can do? We're going to refresh this, and we're going to wait for her to get up to probably 10 points. And then we'll use Treason to kill off this Fangs, damage her down, and then pull her to our side. We just want him to feel comfortable. But we're going to get out Kahir. Don't want to miss out on all these boosts he's feeding us. So every time Thirsty Dame gets boosted, Kahir's going to get boosted. And then when we damage her down, he's being too nice. It's being too nice to us. He just put the 6-point Matahari next to Thirsty Dame, so I can actually let Thirsty Dame get quite a bit higher. Alright, now I think we're actually going to play our Purify on Damien. There's no reason to let that go to waste. And then we'll get out Stefan Skellen next. It'll give us more flexibility, so we can either choose, depending on what he plays next, we can choose what we want to do. Ooh, interesting. All right, so he has now played Fion, which is what he reached for, right? So, wish I had a way to damage Fion twice. I don't. So, we're just gonna play out Stefan, see what he gets us. Now, if I can damage Fion down to 6 points, I can actually just yoink him over to my side. It's one of my favorite things to do, because then you get a defender defending your stuff on your side, right? So he gets another. Joachim here is aristocrat, so he is going to get him his last fangs to the Empire. So he's gonna poison Kahir, and now we just want to. I think we're gonna want to do. So I ran out of purifies on my side, so I can't purify him. I don't love any of these other cards, so I'm actually gonna reach and see if I can't get any of his cards. So we're gonna go ranged with Menno here, and we're gonna play Bribery. You guys can see how this works. Alright, Roderick works for me. We're gonna play Roderick on the other side of Fion. That way we can kill if we need to. And then I'm gonna play War Council, I guess. And then we're gonna do Assassination. And then we're gonna replay that.
Target acquired.
Boom. And then we're actually just going
As good as dead, that lot.
and kind of at our side right now. So I could have killed him with this tourney joust, but I'm more concerned. I will really want to pull over some of his cards so he can get me boosts. Alright. Like he's all proud of himself right now. Watch how the magic happens. Poison kills. Alright. Yeah, the problem here was I probably actually should have used that tourney joust, then done the attack. Morale would have ruined that for me, though. Yeah, Morale's gonna get him to kill. Well, so you guys saw, like I said, this is one of the weaknesses of this deck, is just keeping up with these ball decks. Had I played this a little bit tighter, I probably could have pulled it off, but I needed to get that Thirsty Dame switched over. But speaking of, you can fine tweak your deck in a few different ways. One of those can just be, we'll just get the attack, it doesn't matter. One of those ways is you can swap out one of your 5-point cards for Bomb Heaver. Bomb Heaver is this card that he played, destroy an enemy artifact. And we could probably switch out one of our Purify cards and just trash this Masquerade Ball. There's so many poisons in this deck, it's hard to keep up with anyway, so it's probably not a bad choice. The problem is that Bomb Heaver is really only good counter for that deck specifically, and while I didn't get to show it to you, this deck is really good on a lot of other decks. It does a good job of control, gets you good boost points, so a lot of flexibility that can provide you there. Well, I think that's it for today. Like I said, no deck is perfect. I think I'd rather have some of those other cards I didn't have to build up Soldier's Ball, and maybe after you can see I'm at 1,500 shards here, after I get a few more, I'll build those up, and then hopefully later on this season or maybe at the beginning of next, I'll be able to show you guys how that deck works. But like I said, this deck isn't perfect. Not pulling off big wins, but this will show you a few Nilfgaard cards that you can build. And if you are lower down, let's say like rank 15 or even probably upwards of rank 10, this is still going to get you a lot of play. I mean, you can see at pro rank, you can see what my max score was here, 2433. I mean, that's not mind-blowing. It's not 2,500, which is usually the target for the top 50 players. But 2433 isn't a laughing matter either, right? So, but for me, I'm just working this up to 25 so that I can get my max score, and then that's going to be based off of my peak MMR. And more on this. This is really expert analysis, but I think just so you guys have a good frame of reference of how good the decks are comparatively, it's pretty good. I'll show you guys Syndicate deck next. It's done pretty well for me, but honestly not even as well as this Nilfgaard deck. And we'll wrap up with a Skellige deck that was pretty mediocre. And then we can do a monsters deck if you guys want it, but I'm not. You got to have very specific cards for monsters that honestly are good this season, but probably won't be good next season. Monsters, in my opinion, has just fallen deeply out of favor. They're very hard to work with. They require a specific play. It's hard to trick your opponent because you have to do it in a certain order to stay alive. They don't have that many damage cards. Anyway, I just feel like they're very limited in their versatility. They can beat a few decks, but they certainly can't beat most decks. And that's what we're trying to build here for you guys. Decks that can beat most decks. And this Tactics deck, even though it lost that other Nilfgaard deck, is actually one of the more versatile decks that I've been playing with. So just hang in there, stick it in for the long haul, build that Royal Decree. That's going to be a great ad for a bunch of your decks, give you a specific play when you need it, anytime in the game, whenever you draw that card. But until then, have fun and keep on Gwenting.